Do you think that the mainstream media, when reporting on Afghanistan, mobilised the idea of women's rights in order to meet their agenda? This article suggests that the CIA and government have done exactly that. Let's have a look. Whenever I'm trying to get some objectivity and clarity on a subject regarding the Islamic world, I turn to George W. Bush and Tony Blair. Trustworthy guys will never let you down.
Supportive of troops in Afghanistan. By the way, and one of the reasons why is because she saw the progress that could be made for young girls and women in Afghanistan. It's unbelievable how that society changed.
All I've ever cared about, me, Dick Cheney, Wolfowitz, Rumsfeld, all of us that have these notorious relationships with the military-industrial complex and mainstream media, is bloody Afghan women and girls.
Is it a mistake? The withdrawal?
I think it is. Yeah, I think the consequences are going to be unbelievably bad, and I'm sad. And Laura and I spend a lot of time with Afghan women.
Afghan women and girls, you all right? Is everything okay? Right, we're going into Iraq. Why? Afghan women and girls. They're not in Iraq. Iraqi women and girls. That's more like it.
And they're just. It seems like they're just going to be left behind to be slaughtered by these very brutal people, and it breaks my heart.
So what you're saying is, if we don't agree with your profitable war, that you're basically saying you want women and girls to be slaughtered. That's right.
Now, maybe my generation of leaders...
So there's that other great feminist, Tony Blair. Trying to think how he can help women and girls. Tony Blair, with his various funds and philanthropic endeavours and the millions he's accrued since being Prime Minister. Like, we remember the old Iraq war that he got us into. Why? Afghan women and girls.
We're naive in thinking countries could be remade. Or maybe the remaking needed to last longer.
Yeah, you've got to remake them for longer. You can't just remake them for a couple of months. That don't make any profits. I mean, that don't make it good enough for long enough for Afghan women and girls. You've got to stay there about 20 years to stabilise these women and girls companies. Are they not companies, just people? It's just all I care about is women and girls. I can't stop thinking about the safety of Afghan women and girls.
But we should never forget, as we see the women of Afghanistan in the media, culture and civic society now flee in fear of their lives.
Don't actually pretend to nearly cry about it. I mean, I can hardly even say this. I'm so choked up about it. Tony, we know now. We've seen about the sexed up documents. We've seen how it all went down. You can't still pretend to do it like Fred West enthusiastically claiming it was all about a patio in 2021.
That our values are still those which free people choose. Recovering confidence in those values.
You know what ruined confidence in those values? You!
Islamism, both the ideology and the violence, is a first-order security threat, and unchecked, it will come to us, even if centred far from us, as 9/11 demonstrated.
He's still trying to bang that drum, isn't he, Tony Blair? Every single problem that subsequently ensued from that mad invasion of that country, which was premised on lies and treachery, is still being supported by him in his dotage. What a crazy guy. I'll say one thing for him, he's consistent.
We need also to assess our vulnerability. COVID-19 has taught us about deadly pathogens. Bioterror possibilities may seem like the realm of science fiction.
Oh, good. There's another thing to worry about. Don't have to worry now just about Islamism, the merest tweak of the word Islam, but now diseases. What? Imagine this. A Muslim with a cough. You'd be well fucked.
But we would be wise now to prepare for their potential use by non-state actors.
Oh, that's because the state's so reliable, the state that you governed over, the state that took us into that mad war. So, you decide for yourself, what is military action precipitated by? A desire to retain power, gain power, increase profits, or is it Afghan women and girls? Ekaterina Blinova, writing on Muckrack, said, when the US embarked on Operation Enduring Freedom, I mean, as soon as they call something Operation Enduring Freedom, I'll start to become cynical of their motives. How are we going to disguise the fact that we've got really dubious motives for this? Call it something like Operation Kindness to Little Kitty Cats. We love everyone, let's be nice. Well, that's a bit long. Just call it Operation Enduring Freedom. Yeah, Enduring Freedom. No point in a bit of freedom, because we need to stay there for fucking ages so the weapons industry can continue to make money because we're there for 20 years. So the freedom's got to endure. There's no point having a little bit of freedom on the Monday, but Tuesday, where's the freedom? I ain't got no freedom. We ain't sold a bazooka in a fortnight. night. Anyway, that's what they were calling the invasion of Afghanistan, and it was justified by the need to retaliate for the 9/11 terror attack after the Taliban refused to hand over al-Qaeda leader Osama bin Laden to Washington. It's weird, isn't it? Because it's 20 years since 9/11, so we're all kind of aware again of that mad, mental, seismic, tragic, awful event. And it's an interesting time, I guess, to examine what the motivations were behind the subsequent action. However, having surveyed 37 countries in late September 2001, Gallup International found that apart from the US, Israel and India, a majority of people taking part in the study preferred the extradition and trial of suspects to US attack. In his 9th of April 2021 article for media watchdog FAIR, British journalist Alan MacLeod suggested media coverage of the military operation could at least partially explain the US public support for the invasion. At the time, the American mainstream media had focused not only on retaliation for the 9/11 tragedy, but also proclaimed the Afghanistan war a struggle for women's rights, he pointed out. Of course, the issue of women's rights, civil rights more broadly, is an important one. It's unignorable. I suppose what we're querying is whether or not anyone believes that the military invade foreign territories motivated by any human rights issue, to be honest. I mean, I'm not cynical about human rights in general, but I do think that usually wars are motivated by economic factors. That the wars are ideological, but the ideology is advanced late capitalism, the needs of the military industrial complex, the ongoing sustenance of mainstream media domination. I don't think, based on the way that we have seen these institutions operate, that their real interest is, are Afghani women and girls okay? In fact, have a look at this article with link in the description, written by John Pilger, about the conditions prior to the CIA support of the Mujahideen in Afghanistan, where a liberal government was very progressive around the rights of women and girls in Afghanistan, and the CIA funded the opponents of that regime because that regime didn't fit in with the, wait for it, economic and financial interests of the American government. So it seems more likely to me that what happens is certain stories and narratives are mobilized to disguise the true intention, because deep down they know that the true intention would not garner a lot of public support. We're not sending our troops over to Afghanistan so you lot can sell a bunch of weapons and make loads of money. Yeah, but you care about women's rights, don't you? Well, yeah, of course we care about women's rights. Everyone should be equal. We agree that. People say, right, well, this is about that, actually. That's why we're going over there. I don't know. I mean, I'm both a general in the army and also sit on the board at a weapons company. And I've had it up to here with women's rights issues in Afghanistan. I'm nearly asleep each night. And then I think, oh, God, what's going on in Afghanistan for women and girls? Are they being treated right? Let's go. The New York Times was among the chief architects in constructing the belief in a phantom feminist war. Time magazine also played heavily on this angle. According to a 2005 study by Carol Stabile and Deepak Kumar, found that between the year 2000 and the 11th of September 2001, there were 15 newspaper articles and 33 broadcast TV reports about women's rights in Afghanistan. However, between the 12th of September 2001 and the 1st of January 2002, these numbers exploded to 93 articles and 628 TV reports on the subject. Furthermore, anti-war messages were largely absent from the mainstream media coverage, with CNN executives reportedly instructing their staff to counter any images of civilian casualties with pro-war messages, even if it may start sounding rote. MacLeod noted, citing FAIR founder Jeff Cohen's book, Cable News Confidential. I suppose this is interesting because as people become in some ways more savvy because of the availability of information, it's worth noting that propaganda is a real thing. By propaganda, I mean stories are presented to govern the way we receive and understand reality, so that our opinions and our support can be guided, shepherded towards the desired outcomes of the powerful. If you want to have a war in Afghanistan, really promote the idea of women's rights so that you get a favourable relationship with the press, who customarily, at least at that time and perhaps currently, care about that issue. People don't get all jazzed up about a war when it's simply to increase the profits of a few elite organisations. But it's not only the US mainstream media who used the Afghan women's rights narrative to garner support for the Afghanistan war. In March 2010, the CIA issued a confidential Red Cell memorandum, which later became part of WikiLeaks' bombshell Afghan war dump. In the secret memo, the intelligence agency bemoaned the eroding approval of the Afghanistan military campaign among Washington's European allies and offered to use feminism in order to reduce opposition to the occupation of the Central Asian state. Some of you that are cynical about the government and the media will think, well, of course, this is no surprise to us. We know that they do that. But it's not ideal, is it? It's not the way that these things should be handled. You know, if you really, really care about feminism, then promote feminism and talk about feminism, but don't promote feminism in order to make profit for a weapons company or in order to pursue some geopolitical goal that's not even shared at a national level for whatever reason. It's a kind of form of despotism, tyranny and dictatorship, but with the garnish and ornamentation of democracy. According to the CIA, 80% of German and French respondents expressed opposition to increased international security assistance deployment at the time. German and French leaders, fearing a backlash ahead of spring regional elections, might become unwilling to pay a political price for increasing troop levels or extending deployments, the document said. If domestic politics forces the Dutch to depart, politicians elsewhere might cite a precedent for listening to the voters. That is not the kind of precedent we want to set. Listening to voters. Well, the main thing is to control what those voters are thinking. Then you can listen to them because they're saying stuff that you want them to say. Do you want us to go to war in Afghanistan? Well, of course we do. Women's rights is a very important subject. Right, let's get out there and sort out these women's rights. Hold on, you're so clever. We want some more opinions. Should we buy some weapons to take over there? Yeah, you're going to need weapons over there. Good, good, good. And what sort of markup? Oh, you're out. This is getting out of my depth now. Sorry, won't ask you anymore. Afghan women could serve as ideal messengers in humanising the ISAF role in combating the Taliban, it insisted. Highlighting that French and German women are 8 and 22% points less likely to support Afghanistan war than men, the document stressed that media events that feature testimonials by Afghan women would probably be most effective if broadcast on programmes that have large and disproportionately female audiences. What made this document so fascinating, so revealing, is the CIA's discussion of how to manipulate public opinion to ensure it remains at least tolerant, if not supportive, of endless war, said Glenn Greenwald in a recent review of the document. I suppose these are the kind of things that we dread. The idea that the information we're given is designed to manipulate our behaviour, our intentions, our understanding of reality. That there are no sincere ideals around civil rights issues or humanitarianism. There's a fundamentalist ideology always at play, regardless of what's being publicly stated. That is not how you get people inspired to participate in democracy. That's not how you get people to vote and to believe and to care and to feel proud. That's how you get people to switch off and feel despondent and to think that no matter what is being discussed or declared, the truth is always the same. We care about power, the maintenance of power, and the increase of profit. And if you have that understanding of politics, the relationship between the government and big tech and big business and the mainstream media, then you'll probably look at alternative sources of media information. You're probably very despondent about the point of bipartisan democracy in particular. You're probably very cynical about neoliberalism and the differences between the left and the right. And why wouldn't you be? Because the evidence is in. You should be. While the US media and CIA pushed ahead with their feminist narrative, ordinary Afghan women have not seen much improvement in their life conditions over the last 20 years, according to McLeod. He cited a female Afghan member of parliament who outlined the three principal problems faced by women in Afghanistan prior to the Taliban takeover. First was the Taliban, second was the US-backed warlords disguised as government, and third was the US occupation. If you in the West could get the US occupation out, we'd only have two, the Afghan women said. Yeah, no, we've just got to stand out. You don't know what's best for you. Listen to me. Poor woman. The war in Afghanistan is ending the way it started, with a totally fake concern for women's rights, tweeted McLeod. Have a look at some of the resources we used. Make up your own mind on these issues. It seems in keeping with my broad perspective of the way that the government, media and big business behave. Create a narrative that is appealing and do what you want behind the veil of it. And if that veil happens to be women's rights, then that's useful. These are all the more duplicitous and disheartening measures and methods because women's rights is a very important issue. Freedom is an important issue, and to prod us and provoke us, in our compassion, in our heartstrings, in our seats of righteous sovereignty seems all the more, bogus, duplicitous, downright tricky. But let me know what you think in the comments below so that we can stay in communion. What other aspects of this conflict would you like to see covered? If you enjoyed this video, have a look at this one. That's another video along similar lines. Or have a look at this cheeky little guy, help you unwind and get back in touch with yourself over on my side channel, Awakening. Please subscribe to that, as well as my mailing list over on russellbrand.com. Stay in touch. Thank you.